For the record, today is Tuesday, April 15th, 2025. Mr. Robert Simpson of Largo, Florida is being interviewed as a participant of the Veterans History Project for the Library of Congress. Mr. Simpson was born on June 20th, 1947 in Morrilton, Arkansas. Mr. Simpson served in the Navy from June 20th of 67 through March of 1971. While in the Navy, he served as an aviation administrator. This interview is being conducted at Mr. Simpson's residence in Oak Manor in Largo, Florida. The interview is being conducted by Bob Estes, empath volunteer. Okay, Bob. We know where you're born.
Okay, I'm proud of it.
Yeah, okay, good. And what did your parents do?
My parents, my mother was a private secretary to Governor Carleton, and for 30 years she worked for his law firm. And during the war, she worked at Drew Field in Tampa, in the intelligence division. So she was really smart. It didn't pass on to me.
Okay.
My father was a bomber in the Air Force, and I don't think they call it Air Force, but it was part of the Army at that time.
Yeah.
But he was in a bombing crew in the Pacific. So, and it makes a lot of sense because my mother she finally saved enough money to get a stereo, and she played South Pacific all the time.
Oh,
so
really?
I think a lot of women had people that served over there, so it was a special movie to her.
Did he talk about his experiences in the service much when you were growing up?
No, not really. Didn't talk about it too much. My mother didn't talk about, I don't even know how I found out, but she worked at Drew Field, so. And my father, they separated, and they finally got a divorce years later, but they separated, and he stayed in Arkansas, where I was born, and my mother came back to help my grandfather with a business that had failed. His partner ran off with the money, so he had he had a grocery store back in Sunset Beach called Publix, but it was spelled P-U-B-L-X, so he had the first Publix, so. But he needed bailing out, so my mother came back and helped him, and she told my sister that it's the worst mistake she'd ever made. So
that was where? That was here?
Yeah. So,
okay.
And that was it. That's really all I know about my father. I never talked to him. I never met him.
Oh, okay.
I never saw him.
What about siblings?
I have a sister.
Okay.
She was born a year and a half later than I was.
Okay.
So when we left Arkansas, my mother was very pregnant. So
yeah.
So
did she serve in the?
My sister?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay, but you said your granddad served.
My grandfather served in World War I. He went in as a private, and he came out as a lieutenant. And that's how in the war. That's how you get your promotions.
Right.
But he had. I'll tell you two stories about him. But he was a courier, and he drove an Indian motorcycle with a sidecar. And I think the sidecar was more for support because one of the stories is that he was a courier that went through no man's land to take messages, and there were snipers, German snipers, so he could lean over and hide behind his motorcycle. So he's about 5'8", 5'9", so they picked smaller men so they could hide. And the other story was that in Germany, when they occupied a town, the Germans weren't allowed to entertain, but they could give music lessons. So what they did was that the violin player sold all the soldiers a student violin, and they had a case with it. And they took them all to the pub, and they put them down by the side, and the teacher would just play music all night long.
Oh my gosh.
And he brought back that violin.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, but that's the two stories that he told me.
So did you have a lot of time with your granddad?
Yeah, he took over as a role model for me from my father.
Did he? Okay.
We all lived together, so.
Yeah.
My grandfather, my grandmother, my mother, and my sister, and me.
So he never got injured in his courier role. Must have been good at it.
Yeah, he was good. He was before he went into the service, he could work the the bar, not the bars, but the rings.
Oh,
like that.
okay, yeah,
So he was buffed.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So what were you doing just prior to entering the service?
I was going to school at University of South Florida and trying to maintain my grade point above the decimal point.
Okay.
To just keep it at point something. And I knew I was going to get drafted, so
Yeah.
when I got my notes and I was drafted, so I joined the Navy for 4 years, and that was a good time, really. Actually, I had a good time in the Navy.
Yeah.
I didn't problem at all, but I didn't get shot, so.
Yeah.
But
So
that's not very patriotic, but I knew myself, so.
you served. So when you went into the Naval recruiting office,
Yes.
and what did you tell them when you?
I said, take me. And of course they played with me like a mouse to the cat, you know?
Yeah.
And he said, I don't know. He said, you come back in a couple of days and I'll see, but I don't know I can do it. Well, he knew I could do it, you know?
Yeah.
So I came back and he signed me up. He said, but he did give me a good tip. He said, even if you don't want to be in the band for 4 years, you don't have to be. But tell them in boot camp that you want to be. So that way you can be in the band, and instead of marching all afternoon, you can go in the band room. So we just went to watch TV in the mornings and took tests, you know, on the history of the Navy, and then we went to the band room in the afternoon. So we avoided a lot of work. So.
When did you get this interest in music?
Oh Lord, I think in the 4th grade. Excuse me, in the 4th grade, they had and back then they had an orchestra for the 4th grade. So I said I want to play clarinet, and I wanted to say cornet because I was dumb, you know. And so I said clarinet, and they got me a clarinet. So I first chair in the band. So all the way through high school.
Really?
Yeah. So I could play by ear, you know, and I could pick out tunes. And my grandfather had a saxophone he brought back from the war too. So he gave me the mouthpiece, and he says, I wanted to play the saxophone. You know, he said, well, take the mouthpiece and learn 10 songs. And so I came back with 20, you know, just on the mouthpiece alone. So I said, okay.
Huh. Wow, okay.
But my mother was almost a concert pianist, the way she would accompany me on my solos, yeah.
And this is throughout your elementary, middle school, high school?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And so then that was what you expressed to the recruiter, that you wanted to be in the band. You wanted
Yes.
to be around music.
So I told him when I was there, when I got to Chicago, I told him I want to be in the band, and they said, so they made me play, you know, but you didn't have to be very good.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So did you have an opportunity on the ship to
Oh, well, yeah, I did, but it was informal. This ship had a TV station, a little bigger than this room, I must say. And they had instruments, and I had a saxophone. And so we got a little band together, and we played on Liberty. When we were on Liberty, we played for the Officers Club and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
Just a jazz band,
Yeah.
no singing or anything.
Yeah.
So
Where did you go on Liberty? Now, this was back here in the States, or was this?
that was I think it was in Japan.
Oh, yeah, okay. All right.
We went to Japan, and we went to Hawaii several times,
All right.
and Hong Kong once or twice, and the only other place we went that we weren't supposed to go, but we went to show of force, was when the Pueblo was hijacked in Korea. So we went on like a show of strength, and pretty soon the Koreans changed their mind because there was so many warships out there. They said, well, you can have your hostages back. So
Yeah.
they gave me a medal for that. So, but, you know,
Really? Okay.
all we did was just go and put
Yeah.
here, you know.
Yeah.
But that scared them.
Yeah. Well, that would probably make them think about it, what they're doing.
Yeah.
Reflect
they
on
didn't think
what
about
they.
it long either.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. The okay. So that once you were you entered the Navy, Where did they send you for boot camp?
Chicago boot camp.
Okay.
Thankfully, I was in the summer,
Yeah.
so I didn't freeze. So it was nice.
Yeah.
We had one leave scheduled, and it was for only a day, and then I went to Waukegan.
Okay.
That was where my grandfather was born. So.
And then, okay, so what did you do in boot camp? Was it?
Oh Lord! After I understood what the purpose was, I got better at it. But it was to break you. You know.
Yeah.
It was to make sure that you wouldn't break in time of a war. So basically, it didn't matter how strong you were or how talented you were. They were out to break you.
Yeah.
And that sounds paranoid, but that's the way it was. You know.
Yeah.
And if you did something wrong, you paid for it. You know.
Okay, so what was it that caused you to rethink it, that you now understand what it's all about?
I didn't wash my clothes one night. I went to the dentist, the doctor, with an earache, and so I just didn't do it. So I had to carry around a pail of dirty laundry, marching all day long, you know. And I thought, well, I don't like this. So, because everybody in the whole squadron was going. And we had like 80 guys in there, 80
Yeah.
musicians.
Yeah.
So I thought, oh, I get it now.
Why did you choose Navy versus Air Force?
My uncle Bert had been in the Navy.
Okay.
And I thought the Navy would keep me off land. You know?
Yeah.
And besides, me and my grandfather had built a sailboat when I was younger. We bought a kit, and he basically, I helped him. You know, I sanded, but he put together like over 1,500 parts. You know.
Oh my gosh.
Out in the backyard over the summer.
Yeah.
So I had a sailboat all the time. So.
Yeah. Okay. So you were familiar with the water.
A little sunfish, just two men, and we went out in Tampa Bay.
Oh, okay.
It was fun.
Did you fish?
Did I fish?
Yeah.
Not much. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you reflect on your basic training, what did you take out of that, other than the fact that you understood kind of what the military was trying to do? Anything else you take out of that?
I wish I knew, but I don't.
Yeah.
I do know that when I got off, I got discharged from the basic training, and I went home. I thought it was the best thing in the world, you know, and things were going to be toasty from then on. And basically, they were.
Yeah.
You know?
Did you do any specialized training?
No.
Okay.
No.
Did you know that you would be on a ship?
Well, I had a book to read on
Yeah.
on the aviation administration, and
Yeah.
I took a test and I had to pass it. Yeah.
Okay.
I had to take a typing test and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But when I got to Cecil Field, I came out of the boot camp and went to Cecil Field, Florida,
Mm-hmm.
and we were out in the cold, hanging bombs, and I was
Hanging bombs?
really cold, and just for practice, we're just out of the service, you know, boot camp. So somebody came out on a little cart and said, "Does anybody type?" And I raised my hand. Of course, I never did type, but they took me in, and I was on the radio for almost a year, getting gripes from the pilots that were coming in, and I would just write it on the boards backwards, you know, and write it up, and then send it to the shop, so the shop would be ready for whatever reason with the aircraft, and they would start repairing it. So, and in the meantime, I bought a book on typing. So.
Did they give you any training on that, or they just said go right on the board and?
No, you know, I was thinking about that last night, and no, they just told me it was like a walkthrough, like on a TV station. You know the rules, don't you? I said yes. So just write them, you know. So
Oh, okay.
I just did it. So.
Yeah. Huh. Did you find that they responded to whatever you wrote? I mean, you're communicating from the pilots to.
I never got any trouble for anything on that.
Yeah.
I just, you know, whatever it was, I probably did it better than the last guy did.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I was so grateful to be in the warm hangar, you know.
Yeah. Now, what did you mean hanging bombs? What were you at Cecil Field? What was
Bombs
that?
were, they had this was just practice. The bombs were duds.
Okay,
But,
okay.
But we were doing safety wire on the bombs, some chief would inspect them to make sure the safety wire is just a little wire that keeps the bomb from falling.
Okay.
And it's supposed to be quality control tested, so.
Okay. So it was pretty durable.
Yeah, they weren't really, they were bombs, but they were just duds.
Yeah, right.
So they told me.
Okay. So then you left Cecil Field to go off the coast of Vietnam?
Yeah, we went to, there was a training practice at Fallon, Nevada, of all places. And when we weren't working, we were chasing jackrabbits outside, so it was very isolated.
Yeah.
But this was where the pilots were subjected to almost real life conditions where, like they were at war. So, and I think probably one pilot was lost there. It just crashed. So.
Did they do bombing runs out there in the deserts, or?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. You told me I could think about it, but yes, they did.
Oh, okay.
They
All right.
probably bombed it jackrabbits, but they
Okay.
poor little bunnies.
Yeah, really. How did you adapt to life in the military? Was that a difficult transition, or did you?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't know why. I thought it would be, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
On the ship, we had a little room about this size, and there was 6 of us in the little room. And beds, 3 beds here, and then 3 beds there, and that's how.
All of you were in aviation administration,
Yes.
Is that okay?
No, it's just me.
Oh, just you. Okay.
There was electronics, and there was a storekeeper.
Okay.
Storekeeper. He had a good job. Because he could always get whatever he wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you take a ship across off the coast of Vietnam, or did you fly over there? How did you get there?
We took a ship from San Diego.
Oh, San Diego. Okay.
And went to Hawaii and did carrier qualification, they call them. For the people on the aviation side, they would do practice runs and stuff. And the pilots would do landings, touch and goes.
Yeah.
But the first night we had a planes landing, the whole ship shook, and boom, and I said, oh my God, I won't be able to sleep. And about 3 days later, they were landing, and I was just oblivious.
Yeah, got
It's
used
amazing.
to it.
Just got used to it.
Yeah. Were you on a carrier the whole time?
Yes.
You were there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The being over there, how did you adapt to being on land all your life, and now you're on the ocean for 6 months?
If you're in a carrier, you're pretty much level all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You can look behind the carrier or the fantail and see there's a destroyer behind you, and he's there to protect your backside.
Mm-hmm.
And in most weathers, the destroyer is going like that, disappearing.
Yeah.
But our ship was just level, so it had to be.
Yeah.
So
Right.
it wasn't much of a. Sometimes it was boring. The best thing to me was that the cafeteria was open all the time except for 4 hours a day.
Uh-huh.
So you could go down and you could. It's not really depravity for sitting there, and I can go down at 4 o'clock in the morning and have a cup of tea and a real lemon and honey.
Uh-huh.
So we ate good. So.
What kind of schedule were you on with this aviation
12 to
administration?
12.
12, okay.
12
So
hours
12
on and
hours.
12 hours off.
Okay. And
So-
it was 7 days a week?
Yeah. Except when on Liberty,
Yeah.
we had different hours for that. Yeah.
When you left the ship, how did you get off? Did they boat you in with a...
I can't remember what they called it, but they were old landing crafts that they used to use in World War II.
Oh, okay.
Adapted, and the protocol was that the enlisted men got on first and just sat down, and there was about that much in the bottom of the boat, liquid, and you don't know what it was. But the officers got on last because you don't keep them waiting, and then they got off first. when we got to, and they had in the Philippines they had a place called Grande Island. There was a whole island that was just for sailors.
Yeah.
So you could go there and sail or whatever.
Yeah.
I think if you wanted to partake in mixed drinks, I think they were a dime each.
Oh my gosh.
So I didn't do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But honest, Mom. But you can imagine what was in the bottom of the boat coming home at midnight.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You don't want to dip your bread in that.
Well,
Not again.
Speaking of bread, what was the food like on the ship?
Wonderful.
Wonderful?
Oh yes.
Really?
Steaks, yeah, everything. Oh yes.
Oh my gosh.
Nobody believes that, but it was very, very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you went on leave to the Philippines, was the food questionable? Was it good? Did they try to attract you to come back to their places?
Oh, you mean on the places on the land?
Yeah.
They had their own district, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And I don't think food ever came up unless you drank too much, and then it came up. You know. No.
Yeah.
I had no problem with the girls there because they all looked like they were 12 years old.
Oh,
And
really?
I think they were. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
How many times did you get leave in a year's time?
Probably 5 times.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
For a day or two, or?
Sometimes it was 2 days.
Oh, okay.
In Japan, I got a 2-day leave. So
Yeah.
I rented a little place and for nominal, just for the night.
Yeah.
And I had a hot tub and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From that experience, do you feel like you learned anything about other cultures, or was it you just weren't even thinking about that? You were just trying to.
I think I learned a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mostly that most people were nice and friendly.
Yeah. Okay.
I was one bar in Hong Kong. I took my harmonica with me, and I wanted to sit with the band. And he says, "Pay the kitty." So I had to put in money to play the harmonica.
Oh, really?
And so I just played a couple songs, and that was it.
And you didn't get tips for playing the harmonica?
No,
Yeah.
I just I thought I was going to show off, and I did. I showed off, and but I had to put money in the kitty, so that was. But they were friendly, most of them.
Yeah. How many instruments do you play?
At one time,
No, just one at a time.
I started off with the clarinet and the saxophone, then the bass guitar, and then regular guitar and harmonica. And in the last couple of bands, I sang most of the songs.
Oh, did you? Okay. So you
Just
sang
because there was nobody else to do it.
Yeah.
So I actually I had to brag, I got the last one when I was in Key West, I got pretty good at singing. Who knew?
Yeah. Did you continue that after the service? The band?
No.
Oh, really? Just during the service? Okay.
Well, during the service, after the service, I came home and I got a job at Metropolitan, paying claims. And as a matter, because I was a veteran, because I'd shaved my head before, and my wife was very mad at me. And she said, "You'll never get a job looking like that." Well, I went to Metropolitan open field day, and the guy says, "Come here." He says, "You're a veteran, aren't you?" I said, "Duh." She says, "You don't want to be a mail boy." He says, "You come here." And they sent me with a bunch of other people, and 6 months of training to be a claim approver. We learned all medical history and all that.
Yeah.
And we did 6 months, not live, just practicing, and then we went live. So,
Wow.
so I paid claims, and then I rejoined the band I was in.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Playing guitar, bass guitar.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So you played a lot of instruments.
Yeah,
Yeah. But most of this was by ear. Did you ever read music at all?
yeah.
Oh,
I
did
could
you?
write out music. I did me and another fellow did some copyright of songs, and I wrote out the sheet music
Oh, did you?
with the
Okay.
notations on it.
Yeah.
So I could read music.
The time you spent in the service, did you develop friendships that went beyond the service? Or when you...
Not as many as you'd think. One guy came and visited me after we got out.
Mhm.
I was still in the service, but he was out, and he was in Atlanta. He brought his wife down. We had a day, you know, together.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think about them all. But,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you maintain contact with anybody now from the service?
No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah. Was there an unforgettable character that you had met in the service?
Yeah, there was a guy, Richard Whiting, and he sad to say he passed away, but his nickname was Dick Cheese. Can we say that? Dick Cheese? Well, because he was named that because he was cleaning his toenails and somebody walked in and watched him, and he called, "I'm just getting the cheese out."
Oh.
I apologize, Richard. I know you're somewhere up there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
he was pretty funny.
Yeah.
And but mostly he was funny because he was repeating things from a character in Georgia that he knew. They weren't really.
I mean, a real person.
They weren't really his. But,
Yeah.
You know, running on down through there, stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he wrote a couple of articles for my newspaper that I had on the ship.
Oh, okay.
So I wrote a little newspaper called the Topsoil, and I named it that because I didn't want to be accused of writing underground newspapers.
So what was the situation with underground newspapers? Within a ship or within an organization, within the military, the underground newspaper?
No.
Okay.
It was
Just outside in society.
well, I typed it up in my office, you know, because 12 hours is a long time.
Yeah.
And then I would go up to the captain of the I shouldn't say that, the captain of the ship. I went up to his office, and I went to the A.B. Dick machine. There is that again, A.B. Dick machine. A mimeograph machine, and I rolled off all the copies, like 100 of them. And then I said, "Thank you." And I went out, and you know, the carpet was red, so I was in I don't know what to call it. It was the captain's quarters.
Yeah.
So I pretended I knew what I was doing, and it never got caught. So.
And so these are the ones you sold for 5 cents a
Yeah,
copy?
a nickel a piece.
Yeah. So you came out of the Navy a rich man.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
There was one. I just remember something else I did, which is wrong. But they sold starch at the ship's store.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I went out and bought all of them, all the cans of spray starch, and I had them in my crammed in with my clothes, and I was going to sell them and make a big buck about it. And then some old timer said, you know, that's called hoarding, and it's against the blue book, you know, and you could go to jail for what you're doing. So I took all of them back.
You got your money back?
Well, the ones I kept, I just sold for what they cost at the shop. So,
Yeah.
So I was going to make a whole lot of money, and then I got somebody read me the law. So
Yeah. Well.
Starch boy. Yeah.
How did you stay in touch with your family when you were?
Letters.
Letters. Okay.
Yeah.
And was that a serious move on your part? I mean, you always wanted to be there at mail call, and you always responded right away, or you had the time to do it. So
I did have the time to do
Okay.
it, but most people had the time to do it. There was a lot of shops, like the electronic shops and the electricians that had little refrigerators, and they would sell Pepsis or Cokes for $0.25 each. And that was, at the time, this was in the 60s, so
Yeah.
it was outrageous how much it was, but people would just go buy them,
Yeah.
and take them back.
Oh.
They made a lot of money.
Did you bring anything back from your experience? Any mementos? Any?
Yeah, I brought back a tape recorder. It's called a Akai, and I brought back a big tape recorder, and I brought back a little glass case with a geisha girl in it. And I think that's about all.
Yeah.
And just my papers and stuff.
Yeah. The when you were off duty, so 12 on, 12 off.
Yeah.
I mean, you had to sleep. Did you have any other kind of recreation? Anything that you did other than the band, maybe the music?
No. If
Okay.
there was a sunny day, most of the sailors that could, and it wasn't flight time, they'd go up on the flight deck
Uh-huh.
and get suntan.
Yeah.
So,
were there planes constantly coming in and out?
No,
Okay,
no,
so
no.
the
And we'd always head into the wind, so,
yeah.
no. It's about 8 hours of flights a day.
Oh, okay. So in the entertainment, what would you say would fall into the category of entertainment on a ship? Is there such a thing?
The only time we had entertainment was a USO girl came and danced. And any other time, she would have been considered ugly.
Uh-huh.
But she just got all kind of whoops and whoos and hollering.
Yeah, just good time. Just everybody's enjoying it.
But she just sing and dance, and that was it.
Yeah.
We didn't get Bob Hope or anything.
Yeah.
We didn't have, you don't. There's no entertainment. There's no person in charge of entertainment.
Yeah, right.
There's no on the Lido deck ice cream.
Yeah, yeah.
We didn't have a Lido deck.
So when as you began to look at your timeline for getting out of the service, were you counting down the days? Were you scratching them off the calendar? Was it, okay?
The only thing we did was stupid was we shaved our head and grew beards. And I shaved my beard off, and I had a head shave when I got out, but it helped me get a job, so.
Yeah, oh yeah, sure, yeah.
I had a motorcycle at the time, and I came home and my wife said, I told you not to do that, and she was pregnant, so I didn't know. I didn't know that there was hormones running around. Nobody told me about that. So she in a room, pretty big size living room, she threw my helmet at me.
Uh-huh.
And she says, go in the bedroom and put that hat on, and don't take it off until you grow your hair back. Well, it was a donkey hat, So, and
Now, when did you come back? Where was home when you came back to the States?
Tampa.
Tampa, okay, it was in Tampa, okay.
And we stayed with my grandfather for a couple of days, and we said, we can't do this.
Yeah.
So, because he was from 1894 or so.
Wow.
He ruled the house, and he wanted to know if you were going out. He wanted to know when you were coming back, and so.
Oh.
And so we didn't do.
That didn't work.
We
Huh?
rented a little house.
Yeah. Yeah.
Waited out jobs.
The when you came back, I mean, was it a good time? Was it a happy time? You're out of the service. You're back home with your friends and family. Was it a lot of hoopla, or was it just okay? One day you're in the service.
No,
the next day.
we celebrated when we got home. Yeah.
Yeah.
But when I was around, all the people over my age was they were very patriotic, because they'd just been through the war, so there wasn't any kind of. I found out later I could have, avoided the war at all, but because my mother's boss said he could get me out of the service. She said, no, I want him to go in. So it's like that.
Did you have any, in as much as it was during the Vietnam era, did you have any people that regarded you as a warmonger or?
No.
Okay. You didn't go through that. That's good. Yeah. Was there any readjustment to civilian life?
There was when you got off the ship, and when we came back to Jacksonville. There was, there were in San Diego. We had to walk through a line of hippies, and they were just sitting on the sidewalk, and I don't think I may have got spit on, but I don't think it hit me,
Yeah.
But they were.
And you were in uniform.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're going to we chartered a plane back to Jacksonville. So.
Okay.
But it was just their opinion,
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Did you see a reaction from the other service members with you?
No.
Okay.
No.
So it was kind of just took it as that's the way it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, nobody was upset about it.
Yeah.
I think the people around us were, a lot of people.
Yeah.
Especially the old timers,
Okay, so the civilians.
Yeah, most of the civilians were outraged, to an extent. But it was hard to tell,
Yeah.
Nobody would really say what they thought.
Yeah.
Have you heard about that? Trump or whatever. Yeah. Nobody talks about it.
Yeah. You said you made some notes. Did you things that you wanted to comment on your?
No, it's just my grandfather was in World War I, and let's see what I got. Pardon this. But we got my father there, and he was a bomber crew. That's what we have. We've done that. Oh, my Uncle Bert, and here's a name for you. Last name was Needhammer. So,
Needhammer. Okay.
He was stationed in Key West in the 50s, and he had nothing good to say about it because at that time there was the whole town was just crawling with sailors from I think probably the Korean War. I'm not sure, but he had nothing good to say about Key West.
About Key West, really? Because it was just anti-military,
yes,
or okay?
Yes, yeah, because it was just they were overwhelmed with sailors.
Yeah.
And they had a bad experience, and I think they both passed on, both my uncle and aunt. So they had an experience where she had an ovarian cyst, and the hospital took out her ovary, but they took the wrong one.
Oh.
Yeah, and so they had to take the other one. So they adopted 2 children later. So. And one of those children went in the Air Force, and he was stationed at Guam for 4 years in the 80s. So that's Dale Needhammer. And my wife's father was in the Korean War in the Navy, and he was on a ship. And then my wife was in the Navy from 1984 to 1992. And
wow.
She worked with the Admiral in Texas, and she helped. She didn't make any decision, but she helped bring some National Guard and stuff on duty. Brought them, got their travel, and brought them up for duty for the Gulf War.
Yeah.
So,
oh, okay.
yeah. If she was poor, she'd be eligible for pension because it was a war.
Yeah.
I would too if I was poor enough. But I'm glad I'm not.
Yeah, yeah. So when you think about your experience with the service, could you say that you learned, it changed your life? Did you learn something about yourself from your experience in the service? Did it affect your life positively, negatively?
Well, you know what it did? It gave me an attitude that I could do anything. You know?
Okay.
I usually just volunteer for anything. If I saw an opportunity, I would just take it. So,
Yeah.
Much to the dismay of my family, you know. So, you know, I started a lot of businesses failed. You know.
But you started them and you did something
Yeah,
as opposed to sit back. Okay.
And at 1980, I wrote a book, and I got it copyrighted, but nobody's going to ever read it. It's got to be redone because it wasn't appropriate. It was called Inspector, and it was about an inspector that lived over at Amoco Station, you know, and he had a friend that was a midget, and then he had a tall, giant friend, and the giant liked other men, and the midget was kind of macho, so I have to. I left that to one of my daughters, and she can rewrite it, you know, if she wants to.
So you're obviously you developed a sense of humor in your lifetime.
Oh,
where did it come from?
I mean, they told me when I came home, I was in the 5th grade, and I told my parents that at supper I said, I'm the best joker in the 5th grade, and that's what I call myself, a joker. So my mind is different than yours. I mean, I put together things that just don't go together, and I make them go. I just push them till they do.
And thus your column for the Arkansas and the Kansas paper.
And I found that I could practice that. I could take, sometimes at work I would take, at lunchtime, I would take the dictionary out and pick 2 words, and then I would try and relate them to it. And then you could see what people are saying, but they don't know they're saying, you know. But the one that stumped me for about 3 years was I had Cuba and television. And it came to me about 3 years later, and you know what a Cuban television is? It's a bottle of rum and a viewfinder, a viewmaster. And nobody knows what a viewmaster is anymore, so it's kind of passé.
Yeah, yeah. I still have one by the fact.
Do you?
Yeah.
You got the one with the girls in it?
Well, no, I didn't see any girls. I saw it to Commandant Falls, but
I should have. I think I had Flash Gordon in mine or something.
oh, yeah. The what else do you have as far as notes that you?
That's about it, except for the other things that are in my life.
Yeah. Okay. So tell us about your column. What gave you the idea to start this column in a newspaper?
The last band I was in Key West with a guy named Michael Rising, and he's subsequently moved to Arkansas, in Mena, Arkansas. And I didn't know it, but I caught up with him on Facebook, but I didn't know that he'd already written a couple of books. And one was optioned for a movie, so he was on his way. And I found it, and out of spite, he started a newspaper. Out of spite, because he got fired from the one that was in Mena, so he started his own newspaper. So, and one day I sent him an email. We were talking about the Wizard of Oz and how it impacted us. And I sent him something, and it said like, sometimes I dress up in a sundress and I chase my little Cairn Terrier around my apartment with a leaf blower. So, and he thought that was funny. So, but he said, why don't you do a spoof for me as a fake little town, and the town's called Hogspur, and Clet Litter is the guy. And he says, you can do whatever you want with it. Well, I said yes, you know, because you don't get that.
You volunteer, yeah.
But I sent a few things, and he didn't like them, so I said, we went back and forth, and he thought, this one works, and so I started doing it. And I realized that I had something that I was looking for that I didn't know. It was called a niche, where you have something that nobody else has.
Yeah.
And I thought, I used to listen to Rush Limbaugh, and then I'd switch over to a PBS station, and I thought, one person talking is really boring. And all the columns, the funny columns, was just one point of view, and there was no. So I said, the town's going to have characters. So I had a bunch of characters, and I kept a master file on them. So I had all kinds of characters, and they would interact with each other and talk.
But they all had different opinions.
Yeah. And I sent it in, 3 columns from 2007. It was the first year. I sent in 3 columns from 2007, and 2008. I sent it off to a National Society of Newspaper Columnists for $45, and I said, see what happens, you know. And I won first prize. and I think it's because I just had something that nobody else had.
Yeah.
I had a character, Morton Troubletooth, who was so stupid that he could cross-thread a nail, you know. And he had a website for selling sand spurs, and he couldn't figure out why nothing sold. And so the guy said, compared mine to Lake Wobegon, but further south. And tragic comedy. I had to look that up. Where the characters are blue collar and they have their own opinions. But I think I hit the niche on that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But I never tried to get. I thought, well, I'll just try again to see what I can win. I thought, how can I do any better than first place? So I thought altruistically, you know, I'll let somebody else win, you know.
Yeah. So I mean, you must
have
have
point.
you enjoyed doing that. How long did you write the
16 years.
16 years.
So
wow.
I wrote a column every week for 16 years.
Yeah.
I kept during the week I would get ideas from my family,
Uh-huh.
and I would see things on TV that struck me funny,
Yeah.
and I would just write notes, and then about 2 days before the column was due, I'd write it out, and then I'd rewrite it,
Yeah.
and then I'd rewrite it, and then I'd rewrite it, and move things around, and suddenly things got funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know how that happened. I just don't, people ask me how that happens, I don't know. I just,
Did you ever get any calls, any requests, any comments? You know, it's like, why don't you do more of this? Why don't you, you know?
My friend Michael said that after the second week, people were coming up to him and said, well, I pulled a clip yesterday, you know,
Uh-huh.
which doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah.
And then I did a kind of a spoof and a satire on somebody in Kansas, the other newspaper that took me up in Kansas. There had been an article in their paper about a 70 or 80-year-old man that was mugged outside a casino, and they didn't do anything to the guy that did it. He just let him go. So I wrote a satire on that, and the editor said, somebody said, "Who is this guy?" He said. So they wanted to do more of that. So,
Uh-huh.
but I stayed away from that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was just supposed to be funny. You know?
Yeah.
I realized some of the things I wrote that were funny to me. Now I'm thinking, that was a little bitter, wasn't it, Bob? So, you know, but,
Yeah.
I can be bitter if I want to.
Yeah. Right. No. Okay. So I guess maybe in conclusion, Bob, what would you say the impact of your service had on your life? If you had to pick out one or two things that you feel like, having been in the service, changed your life, altered your life, improved your life?
It's just the idea that I could do anything. Yeah.
Okay.
I could throw my hat in and just
Yeah.
try and give it a try. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think the only other thing that inspired me was a movie called Moscow on the Hudson, and talked about two Russians coming over to this country and how wonderful it was. And then you realize, you know, it is.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, then this concludes our Veterans
thank you for the
History.
pleasure.
Oh
Yeah,
my gosh!
appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Been a long time setting it up, didn't it?
Yeah.
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 Thank you.
Yeah.